Welcome into the Rock Talk Studio, the podcast that gives you recommendations on new rock and roll books and documentaries you don't want to miss. Looking for a good book or doc to check out? Well, here comes the inside scoop on all the details on the top recommendations and hidden gems that just released. I'm your host, Big Rick. Join me for an exclusive look into what's hitting the shelves and the screens, and get ready to rock your reading and viewing list. Before we jump into today's spotlight title, I just want to take 60 seconds and tell you about the new format of the show. Those of you who've been with me for a while, I appreciate it. First of all, thank you for hanging in there and enjoying the ride with me as I just hone my craft and do the best I can to give you the best information about rock and roll books and documentaries. If you were with me last week, I told you about this, but just bear with me because I just do want to explain it to anybody who hasn't heard it yet. I'm changing it up a little bit. I've stopped the rating system, the 1 through 4. I know a lot of people liked it, but it really wasn't. I didn't think it was really productive to what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is point out great rock and roll books and documentaries, basically recommendations. That's what people ask me for. That's what I usually talk about. And with the rating system, in the course of a year and a half, I only gave out 1-4, which was a nosebleed title, which is a dud you didn't want anything to do with. And I gave out a couple of 1s, which I called front rows. And I'll still tell you if a title's a front row center all the way. And that's what I hope to be delivering, is a lot more information about the different books and docs, but more recommendations than ratings. So hope you enjoy the new format. And again, thanks for being with me. Let's get into the show. All right. Today, the spotlight falls on the documentary Learning to Live Together, the return of Mad Dogs and Englishmen. And that Mad Dogs tour, that original tour, that has got to be one of the most heralded tours in rock and roll history. And now, 50 years later, we get this gem of a doc, and it's a pretty amazing work, especially considering it comes from a first-time filmmaker, Jesse Lauder. His balance of weaving 3 powerful stories, you've got the original concert, which was in 1970, the reunion show, which was in 2015, and the history lesson and update on what happened to the various artists during and since, really shines. And to me, the topper was the story is told through the lens and the words of the Tedeschi Trucks band and the one-night reunion of the Mad Dogs and Englishmen tour at LOCKN Festival in 2015. Tedeschi and Trucks, if you follow the show, you probably know are my favorite new, I guess you could say, band, even though they were formed in 2010. I really enjoy that band, and they were behind the idea for this. And you get a really good glimpse at what this means to Tedeschi and Trucks, to Derek Trucks and Susan Tedeschi, the married couple who front the band, and the rest of the band members too. You get a good sense of how special it is to be able to do this. So not only do you get the Tedeschi Trucks band, but you get the reunion, which brings together 12 of the original Mad Dogs and Englishmen, including Leon Russell, plus performances from Chris Robinson of the Black Crowes and Dave Mason. And that's one of the many things I really liked about this doc. Not only does it capture all the great energy and performances of the tribute show, but it also sheds a ton of new light on that famous Mad Dogs band and that standout tour. And that's what comes up first in this doc. The use of original footage from 1970 Mad Dogs and Englishmen tour in all its grainy glory puts you right in the middle of this, for lack of a better word, giant party that they had. The archival footage is top notch. There is some really outstanding moments captured here, and it's mixed with a ton of great music and some pretty heavy drama too. The story of the Mad Dogs tour is captivating, and it's an amazing story all in itself. And that original Mad Dogs and Englishmen documentary, if you were lucky enough to see it, if you remember that one, it's one of the greatest rock and roll films of all time. It's beloved in the histories of rock docs. So there's a lot to unpack here. You have the 12 original members, never before seen archival material. You've got comments from critic David Fricke, who's great in this, and even fans who attended the original shows are in the film. Really helps to fill out the magic of that original tour. And it really adds to the buildup of these artists getting together for this reunion show. And you can see it on their faces of the reunited members and how just lucky they felt to be together again. A lot of them thought they were never going to see each other again. And a lot of them mentioned that they never thought this would happen. It's just really cool that you get this full circle moment for these originals, pioneers really in family style kind of touring. And it shows how important the Mad Dogs were to the formation of the Tedeschi Trucks band. It also shows how important Leon Russell was to this whole thing. From that original tour to even to this reunion tour, Leon is featured prominently in this, as he should be, and I'm really glad that he was, because unfortunately Leon passed just a few years after this. So this is actually the last filmed interview with Leon. He is such an amazing talent. Longtime listeners to the show will remember my recommendation on the great Leon Russell book called The Master of Space and Time's Journey Through Rock and Roll History by Bill Janovitz. That's an incredible book. If you watch this doc, which I recommend you do, and want to fill in the gaps about Leon, that book is vast and it explores Russell like never before. It was in my top 5 of best rock and roll books of last year. I learned so much from that book and really opened up a ton of new appreciation for Leon Russell. Great book, great book. Okay, a few more things about the doc. One name I haven't mentioned, and those who know about Mad Dogs and Englishmen album and tour know that it was Joe Cocker who fronted that band. And Joe Cocker, who was a huge star coming off Woodstock, and this was a tour he put together to take advantage of it. Tedeschi and Trucks tried to get Joe to participate in the reunion, and unfortunately he was having health problems and couldn't attend, and sadly passed away before the show even took place. Again, I'm just really glad this was put together because it's more than a simple reunion show, which in of itself is amazing. And the doc does close with 20 minutes of live concert footage with Chris Robinson doing some great Joe Cocker-like vocals, and then some really nice extra love for Leon, especially at the end. At the end of the credits, hang on, Susan Tedeschi sings to Russell as the credits roll. It's a really beautiful ending. Having Leon Russell there and the reunited Mad Dogs is rock and roll royalty. There is a lot of legacy here, and this is a beautiful tribute and a great display of appreciation for this magical moment in rock and roll history. This is a tremendous doc and one that I would highly, highly recommend. Learning to Live Together, The Return of Mad Dogs and Englishmen is 1 hour and 51 minutes, and it's directed by Jesse Lauder. And all that's really left here is one big question about this doc, one thing that needs to be addressed, and it's pretty important if you want to see it. And right now, there's only really one way to see this doc. Good thing for you, I've got the answer to that question, and I'm going to deliver it to you next. All right, before I tell you where you can catch that great doc, I do want to ask you a favor, and that is to help me on my quest for more reviews on my Apple Podcast site. Currently at 18, we started this quest at 12, so thank you to the 6 people who took a little extra time and gave me that 5-star review. I'm shooting for 25, and the reason behind 25 is it is a number, it's a cutoff number that helps with getting ranked higher. And it also is a number that gets recognized more often when people are looking for shows. So 25 is a really good number to have for reviews. Again, I've got 18, 7 more. All it takes is a few minutes. I would really appreciate it if you could take some time. If you enjoy the show, if you're enjoying what I'm offering to you, just leave me a little 5-star review. You don't have to write too much. Anything is great. I appreciate it. I'm also going to pay it forward a little bit here with recommending a good rock and roll podcast. And if you know the show, I always like to recommend a podcast and turn you on to stuff that I'm listening to. Currently, I've been listening to a bunch of shows from a group of guys called the Album Nerds. And let's listen to what they're up to.
Drop the needle on the Album Nerds podcast.
It's just the Album Nerds.
It's just Album Nerds.
Join Andy, Don, and Dude each week as they discuss albums from themes chosen by the Wheel of Musical Discovery.
Heavy metal guitar virtuoso.
Double albums.
TV raps.
Punk rock.
The top 10 albums of 1986.
Uncover hidden gems, revisit classics, and hear fresh takes on your favorite records.
Exile on Main Street.
Some of what country music can do best is that storytelling.
This is a messy album for sure.
I just want to hear Floyd in everything, I think.
Born in the USA.
And it sounds great overall as an album. I'm just not moved by it.
The Album Nerds podcast. 3 guys talking music.
This is what we call freestyling.
Yes. That's what we call freestyling. No one else would call it that. Other people would call it find another podcast to listen to. Okay, so
Give it a spin wherever you find podcasts and albumnerds.com.
the Album Nerds. Check them out and leave them a 5-star too. They deserve it. They got a great show. All right, let's take a look at the one big question, and that is, where can you watch Learning to Live Together, the documentary? When this doc was first released, there was only one streaming channel that was carrying it, but also 2 airlines were showing it. Can't remember which airlines it was. I think it was Delta and Virgin, which I thought was a really cool way to promote this documentary. But unfortunately, on the flip side of that, there's only one way to see this on a streaming channel that's not a really popular streaming channel, and that's the Criterion channel. It's a really cool channel, but not a lot of people have it, and not a lot of people are going to want to sign up for it. So I'm going to suggest you do something that I did, which was sign up for the free 7-day trial, watch this great documentary, and there you go. So Criterion Channel is the only place to check out this amazing documentary. That's how to do it. Get that free trial and check it out. Coming up in next week's podcast, I look at a book unlike any book that I've read this year. It's very unique. It's a different type of writing style. It's really challenging me, and I like it. It follows the life of a one-of-a-kind female musician and writer, and it's written by one of rock and roll's best female writers. Here's your clue, and it's an easy one. I made it way easy this week. Joni. Thanks for tuning in. Love talking rock and roll and being able to give you the scoop on a title I think is worth your time and money, like today's recommended title, the documentary Learning to Live Together. If you want to stay up on what's new in the world of rock and roll books and documentaries, all you got to do is follow me at the Rock Talk Studio on social. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, or YouTube. I talk about all the latest news. There's a new Springsteen doc just announced, news of the last song Alex and Eddie Van Halen worked on and how it's being included in Alex's upcoming memoir. We finally got the announcement of the release date of the new Dylan biopic. Give me a follow at Rock Talk Studio for all the good stuff about all the new stuff. All right, tear it down, pack it up, and head on down the road. We'll see you next time in the Rock Talk Studio.